I'm pretty confident that you'll have a sort of working understanding of what anxiety is and what it means. It's that feeling the night before a big test, right? But really, what I want to do here is I want to immediately analyse this and break it down. So let's take our anxiety, and I want to tell you that we effectively have, or at least this is what I'm going to tell you today, is that we have two types, okay? We have two types of anxiety. By the way, things are always more nuanced. They're always more technical the deeper you go, right? But for now, we have two types of anxiety. And I'm going to break them one over here and one over here in some kind of celebration of pinkness. And I'm going to take here and I'm going to break our pinkness and I'm going to write in lovely yellow that one example of anxiety is cognitive anxiety. And I'd ask you to reflect on what you understand by the word cognitive. And while you think about that, I'm going to go over here. I just realised I've left my Skype. Hey, come on, let's turn my Skype off together. While you're thinking about that, I'm going to write over here in glorious orange, I'm going to write somatic anxiety. And I'm wondering if the word somatic is a little less familiar to you, or maybe neither word's familiar to you. I'm going to stress these for you right now. So let's take cognitive. Cognitive anxiety happens in the mind. It is mental and it is emotional. It is what you would call thought-based. Okay, so if I could write it that way, it is a thought-based experience. So it's happening in the head, right? Or can have physical influences. And a great way to think about it is it's as simple as saying that cognitive anxiety is negative thoughts. That's a real nice description of this concept. And the word I like to use if you just look here, guys, you get to laugh at me because I completely screwed up. Let's just all be clear here. I am completely wasting your time at this point, okay? I am completely wasting your time because I could start this video again, but instead of doing that, I'm making a black rectangle, I'm filling it in with a black fill, and then I'm merging those layers together. Now I've literally just wasted 30 seconds of your life. You can judge me for it, but the word I wanted to introduce you to was apprehension. I was just teaching about diet a moment ago and I left the picture. So apprehension's a real nice word to consider when it comes to cognitive anxiety. We're apprehensive. Or another one, nice and simple, it's a form of worrying. Okay, now somatic anxiety, well, what is this? If this is mental, emotional, mind-based, somatic is physical. Soma means body, by the way. And we experience it as feelings of, for example, nausea. You know, that sort of feeling of sickness and churning stomach. And we might get a little bit sweaty. So think about sort of maybe pre-sports performance, you're worrying, you kind of might get some of these physical responses. What about this one? Up arrow, increase in heart rate. And I just want you to be aware that this one is caused by a release of adrenaline. It actually acts directly on the heart, on the pacemaker, and it causes our heart rate to go up. Now, temporarily, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Longer term, this can actually be quite damaging. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But I want to consider, this is really where I want to go with this. Well, what are the causes of anxiety around sort of sporting performance and physical activity? And I want to give you a few examples of what I think causes anxiety. The first thing is that if someone might be low in confidence, I'm going to give you a really silly example. I'm pretty confident when it comes to like games-based performance. Someone puts a tennis racket in my hand, or a rugby ball, or a football, or a golf club. You know, I'm not the best, but you know, I know I can give it a right good go. Somebody give me some dancing shoes. Someone put me in a ballroom, and I cannot tell you how unconfident I would feel. So, of course, that's going to lead to anxiety, and you guys will experience this. And maybe it's not necessarily sport-specific space. It could be a role within a sport. What about if I've recently been injured? Okay, you may have experienced this yourself. You've broken something, you've torn something, you've strained something, whatever it happens to be, and you come back and it bothers you, it worries you. That could be a cause. Another really good example would be poor preparation, you know, whether that's tactical or physical or whether it's psychological. If you don't feel prepared for a particular competition scenario, you might become anxious. This one's a really interesting one. What about a mismatch of challenge? What about if you are in an environment and you're playing against an opponent, or running or swimming or whatever happens to be against an opponent, and you don't feel like you compete, they're stronger than you, or they're bigger than you, or they're faster than you, or they've got a history of beating you, whatever it happens, that mismatch of challenge can lead to anxiety potentially. A couple of others I want to talk about, it's actually last one. I want to talk about this one. What about having the wrong goals? What if you are judging yourself purely by whether you win or lose rather than your performance standard and improvement, a gain, growth, these sort of things? If we've got the wrong goals, if we've got very outcome-based goals, it can lead to anxiety, and therefore a blend of goal setting is important. Now, what I want to finish off with, guys, is I want to focus on relaxation techniques. If we are feeling, maybe around performance, if we are feeling anxious, we are getting sweaty, if we are getting kind of nauseous and we're worrying and we've got negative thoughts, what can we do? Well, the first example I'm going to give you is a process of mental rehearsal. Okay, now I want to be clear, mental rehearsal in most cases is going to be a performance-based experience. All right, now it's a process of visualization, which I'm going to come back to in a second, and it's normally performance-based. So someone can kind of picture themselves in the stressful environment. You know, maybe you're a rugby player and you have to mentally rehearse a penalty kick in your mind that could decide a big cup final, something like that. People that go through those things psychologically in preparation seem to cope better with stress when it happens in reality. And there's an interesting point here. I was reading recently that there is a strong belief that imagined reality and actual reality are indistinguishable to the human mind. Just reflect on that a second. I should say to the subconscious. So your subconscious, that bit that you can't control, it doesn't know the difference between things you imagine and things that are real. Now that makes this a very powerful structure, because if you then imagine success, if you put yourself through the most challenging situation psychologically, mental rehearsal, and you come through it in your kind of imagined state, then of course your subconscious is going to internalize that. It's going to become an actual experience. A couple of other points I want to make to you. Visualization, which will feel like something very, very similar to you. The only thing I would say about visualization, guys, it is a form of mental rehearsal, is a form of visualization, but of course this does not necessarily need to be performance-based. It could be relaxation based. For example, you could just, I don't want to quote a daft film, but it could just be going to one's happy place, right? Go into a feeling, a space of relaxation and visualizing that space. I don't know why I think about this, but being in the summer and being in a warm environment in total relaxation could be the thing that we're picturing to bring our levels down, I suppose. And finally, guys, I'm not going to get into centering and the mechanisms of deep breathing. I'm simply going to name it with you. But deep breathing is also a very common and accepted and a very effective method for controlling anxiety. Okay, final things. If we do this, if we do these things, we can expect a couple of things to happen. So what might happen if we do it? It helps us to control anxiety, but it also helps us to control arousal, which we've looked at elsewhere. Secondly, it helps us to increase concentration. We can focus on, performance, I suppose, and the attentional style that we actually need. And it allows us even to reduce heart rate, okay? And it also allows us, of course, to control breathing, goes without saying. So that's some nice stuff for you there, guys. Anxiety, cognitive and somatic, causes of it, and relaxation techniques. Thanks.